Alright, so today we're going to talk about circulatory system diseases. So, I kind of changed this throughout the years, and every single year I kind of change it a little bit. This year I do a little bit of this, next year I do a little bit of that. But most of these are common diseases, very common diseases. You're going to be tested on some of them, but not all of them. And I guess, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So, most of the time, this is a great introduction to medical majors if you are pursuing a medical major, simply because we are in grade 11. So I want you guys to kind of prepare yourself. And if you're actually, you're taking biology, so if you're potentially interested in pursuing med or life sci, you should take this seriously, because this is going to be like this is going to be like the introductory of, well, I guess, biomed. So we're gonna talk about, first thing is arteriosclerosis, otherwise known as arteriosclerosis as well. So this is chronic. So the process is chronic damage to the arterioendothelium. So this is due to smoking, high cholesterol, and stuff like that. So there's also other causes like fibrous plaque buildup in the arteries. So essentially, this is basically like your arteries is blocked. So what are the cure and solutions? Well, change your lifestyle. So basically, that means smoking less, exercise more, eat more plants, veggies, and you could potentially take medications if you need. And then hypertension is high blood pressure, in simple words. So what are the cause of high blood pressure is narrowed arteries, or narrowed arteries, and then excess sodium, which causes higher fluid retention. So basically, your blood is more, I guess, well, I wouldn't say it's less like a fluid, and it's more towards leaning towards the solid. It gets not that viscous. So essentially, it's gonna be like a little more resistant to flow, so it's a little thicker. So it causes higher fluid retention, which means higher, which causes higher blood volume. So this is also potentially lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes, higher potassium and lower sodium. And usually, if you're an older person, you would need to check regular blood pressure check, whether it's at a local Shoppers Drug Mart and stuff like that. Myocardial infarction is the complicated medical term for heart attack. So this is likely because of the blocking of an artery. So complete blockage of an artery will likely lead to cardiac muscle cell death. So there are a couple things we can do to this. Whether it's emergency, you're gonna take some aspirin, and then some thrombolytic drugs that is gonna help you move your blood around your body. And to prevent this, control cholesterol and blood pressure to make sure your diet is healthy. Your diet is healthy. So heart attack is basically an artery is blocked while going towards the heart. The stroke is basically going towards the brain. So blockage of an artery towards the brain. And then we can solve this by eating some clot busting drugs. And then most of the time, whenever we have a certain stroke, our entire body is kind of gonna be out of control for a while, and then we're not able to speak correctly, walk correctly, because our brain is in a kind of dysfunction because we lost a lot of brain cells. So most of the time, aftermath suggests speech therapy, physiotherapy, and others. Anemia. So anemia is basically iron deficiency. It's caused by iron deficiency. Caused by iron deficiency, which is literally from a poor diet. And then you're also having vitamin B2, lacking vitamin B2, lacking vitamin B12, sorry, vitamin B12. So, what is anemia in a general term? It's anemia is where the number of blood is a lot less than regular amounts. So basically, the red blood cells exist. It has a lower number of red blood cells, but the red blood cells does not have enough hemoglobin, or you have a regular amount of red blood cells, but it doesn't have enough hemoglobin. So this basically iron deficiency and B12. They're things used to produce red blood cells, and lacking those means that you're gonna lack a lot of red blood cells production. And then also this could be caused by chronic disease, something like kidney failure, which basically means you're going to be missing a lot of proteins, so you cannot actually produce these. So there's many different solutions to this: iron supplements, better diet, injections, stuff like that. And then leukemia is, I would say leukemia is more of a cancer. It's a cancer of body's blood forming issues. So basically, remember back a few days ago, we talked about how blood is, how red blood cells, white blood cells are produced. Mainly, you see bone marrow. So when you have leukemia, it's basically you have something wrong with the bone marrow and the lymphatic system, which produces the the blood. So it means that whenever you have some issues with these, your blood cells are not fully developed, and they're called blasts or leukemia cells. The symptoms of this could include bruising, bone pain, fatigue, fever, increased risk of infection because you're missing a lot of red blood cells. The cause of this is DNA mutations I'm gonna write this. DNA mutations in bone marrow stem cells, which leads to uncontrolled production of immature, so not yet developed white blood cells, which is also called blast or leukemia cells. So this is, you have chemotherapy. So targeted drugs to kill cancer cells. One of the most important ones that, whenever you have a soap opera, there's always this kid with leukemia and they needs bone marrow transplant, and yet nobody gives them that. So bone marrow transplant, it's really weird. We can't do too much about leukemia simply because we're not that developed in handling, I guess, cancer. So there's a long way to go for us, and I hope personally, we can go ahead and potentially cure it in the next 40, 50, 60 something years. Then we're gonna talk about varicose veins. So varicose veins is damaged valves in the veins. So basically, remember remember a couple days ago we talked about the structure of all the blood vessels, and we talked about veins. So veins, they had these little valves inside of them so that it can bring blood against, I guess, against gravity. So varicose veins are swollen veins just under the skin in your potential legs, feet, ankles, such like that. So the blood will not be able to come back to your heart very easily because the vein walls is very weak now. And this is pretty common, by the way. So this is potentially caused by damaged venous valves. So the valves are broken. And that's pretty much it. So the solutions is improve venous return. And then we can also do some, I guess, injections to collapse of veins, and obviously for danger cases, laser surgery. That is what we usually do because it's around the feet, so we're fine with that. And then we're gonna talk about arrhythmia. So this is dysfunction in the electrical pathway. So remember we talked about the heart, and we had the bundle of His, and then we had the SA node and all of that. So this is usually caused by the SA node dysfunctioning. And sometimes this could also be caused by electrolytes imbalances. So the medication is blockers, calcium channel blockers. You're gonna learn this in grade 12, and then you're gonna have ablation, which destroys abnormal tissues. And then sometimes you also use a pacemaker, which is like a fake heart, so it will automatically send out electrical signals to your heart. But whenever you use one of these pacemakers, you usually cannot do heavy sports, and you have to keep it monitored because those people with like a pacemaker, they're either in a very severe case where they're about to die. So it's likely that you're gonna have to change your batteries often and be careful about it. So next we have heart failure. So we have basically, I would say you have weakened contraction. Weakened contraction. So your heart is not as powerful as before. So blood does not get to where they need to go. The cure of this is, I would say, lifestyle changes. So less salt. That's what you're gonna do. Medications you can take, ACE inhibitors, stuff like that. Yep. Embolism. Embolism is basically a blockage in a blood vessel. It can start from a blood clot that breaks off and moves into your bloodstream. So, this is usually because of dislodgement, which then travels into lungs, brain, or heart. So this could be triggered by immobility, surgery, stuff like that. So what we can do is we take medications, warfarin, I guess, warfarin and heparin, and then do vena cava filters so that no new clots get in. And then finally, I want to talk about two new ones that's not on here. That being sickle cell anemia, hemophilia, and mitral valve prolapse. So first, I want to talk about sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia is basically, well, I guess you can't control it, but so it's like a genetic mutation kind of thing where your hemoglobin, it's not like a regular shape. So back when we saw the red blood cells, it's a round little circle. It looks pretty cute. However, sickle cell anemia basically means your essentially your red blood cells are falsely shaped. So it means you can carry less oxygen. So you're automatically banned from good sports. So genetic disease. And solutions is medication, which specifically hydroxyurea, which boosts hemoglobin. So it reduces, so basically reduce the effect of the disease. Hemophilia is, well, it's also a genetic disease, I guess. Genetic disease. We are doing a lot of this because we kind of learn all of this in genetics. So this is an X-linked recessive trait, by the way. X-linked recessive. So, what is hemophilia? Well, it's basically when you have a cut and then blood doesn't clot. So when you have a cut, regularly it will take you around a minute or two to clot it. the no longer bleeds. However, for people with hemophilia, will continue to bleed. It's gonna potentially die. So it's because you're missing a lot of clotting factors, whether that be in the protein or you're not producing enough platelets. So we do replacement therapy, which means we replace the missing clotting factor. So for example, you're missing a protein, so we'll give you some of that protein as an injection or stuff like that. There's also new cures for it, which is hemgenics, which is for a special type of hemophilia, but it's still under testing because, well, biology is kind of new. So mitral valve prolapses, mitral valve, also the one on the left, mitral valve fails to function. So basically, the blood it will flow back into the atrium. So it's not good. So most of the time for these, we will need to take pills and beta blockers pills, and then we will repair valve or replacement. Prevention, there's not much we can prevent for this, and that's pretty much it for this class. You don't need to remember all of these, but this one, this one, leukemia 2, anemia, stroke, heart attack, hypertension, and arteriosclerosis. That is the one that you need to remember. These ones I just added here for fun. That is pretty much it.